Are we live? Now we're live. Okay, start.
3, 2, 1. Hello, I am Justin Freed, and this is the Tech Podcast inThirty. We don't know what episode number it is, but we know that you really
Nor
care.
do we care.
No,
Nor do we care.
Our
It's a big win.
Our listeners care, and they can go to inThirty.net to find out what episode we are on. Or if your fingers hurt, you can type in in30.co and save yourself some characters. Okay. So at the top of the show, I'm going to give an applause, a small micro applause, to the Google Chromecast development team, because now, what is so special? Does anyone know? Huh?
We can mirror our Android devices to the Chromecast, essentially getting rid of any Apple TV I ever wanted to buy.
So it's full mirroring on certain devices with a beta version and a few qualifications, but it exists. It works. They think it's important, and Haim, have you tried it out?
Not yet. I did not get the update last night, so I have not tried it out yet.
I find this whole random updating stuff, this rollout system, a little wacky for Google. I know they have 1,010,000,000, devices to talk to and to massage.
But they should make sure the inThirty people get it first.
Yes, that is what I'm getting at. Okay,
apparently, we have some real-time follow-up. We have some real-time follow-up that Justin was called an Apple shill.
How is that real? How is this real time?
It was yesterday. It was 48-hour real time.
Well, the fellow deleted the offending tweet, and I was proud of it, frankly.
You guys are getting worked up over a one-off tweet that's not worth anything. Just putting that out there.
He said I was obnoxious and that I was an Apple fanboy, and I will take obnoxious. It's very simple. You pick up a MacBook Pro, you pick up an iPhone. It's a different type of device than the competition.
I'm with you on that one. I have the same sentiments.
So we have to learn how to say aluminium.
You don't have to do that. But why delete the tweet? So I delete
tweets all the time.
I delete tweets too, but he's calling out Justin, and I'm sure Justin's happy with it. So whoever you are, please come back. He's probably listening right now.
So this is a lesson to all of you Twitterers out there. Keep the email notifications of the tweets, because of the retweets, of the direct messages, of everything. Because I saw it briefly on my iOS device, my holy Apple device. I pulled down Notification Center, tapped on the tweet, and of course it was gone. So I had to go back to my Gmail, which is made by Google, and I used the Gmail. I did find it. Best of luck to the guy. Really, thanks for listening. Okay, so this episode number, X. This is episode N. Is about CEOs. We've done a CEO oh no. We've done a CEO tribute to Steve Jobs, I'm sure. But this time we're going to focus on the Google CEOs, or whatever the hell the two of them are, the double-headed dragon CEOs of Google, and the single bald-headed Indian dragon CEO of Microsoft. Because both of them did pretty substantial interviews in the last couple of days, right? So,
and they weren't clear, as in they didn't just say they didn't call Brian Williams and say, hey, we want to talk. They were picked up by one-off. Well, the Google people were picked off by one-off. It was a VC company, and Satya Nadella wrote a memo and then got the PR movement, and he's talked to apparently the Verge.
Well, so it was Joshua Topolsky at the Verge that interviewed Satya Nadella, and it was directly as a result of this memo?
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Okay, and then apparently it was a substantial memo. And by the way, Bill Gates is out there doing his philanthropist thing, and he's looking like a saint, I think. I mean, I really think he's
well, not in the education sphere. All the NEA people really dislike Steve Jobs, but that's not here or there.
What did you just say, Steve Jobs? Did you mean Bill Gates?
I meant Bill Gates.
Bill Gates.
Okay, yeah, because he's sticking it to the teachers a little bit, and he's curing like 1 billion kids of malaria on the continent of Africa. We don't want our unions busted up. Okay, fine. Anyway, so we're gonna cover Microsoft first. Then, are we ready to do this, guys?
No, let's do Google first. Let's do Google first, so I can continue reading his letter.
Okay,
because it was very dense.
So you're going to talk Google while reading the Satya Nadella interview with the Verge time? Is that what you're going to do?
Well, no, I was hoping I'll talk Google and one of you two read.
Paul, okay, you
Uh,
talk Google. Paul, you read the rest of the interview, and Hein, put on your Google Glass, and you also
That's
read
downstairs.
in your right eyeball or something. Okay,
It's
so
downstairs.
Larry and Sergey, they're at the helm more or less. Eric Schmidt, I guess, just buys penthouses in Manhattan and like takes strange Instagram photos now. So I don't know what he's doing, but it's Larry that's in charge more or less, right?
Larry is in charge, and I think from the beginning it was Larry that was in charge. Business Week put an article out, I don't know, 3 months ago, where they talked to Larry Page, and he gave ideas about the company, and he said, "Look, we worked on it together, but Sergey wanted nothing to do with it. He wanted to be up there, like he was the brains, but he couldn't lead the company." I mean, I'm really paraphrasing this, but Vinod Khosla, and I'm butchering the name.
Coleslaw, yes, okay.
Okay, basically he was a VC. He's a VC. He got a hold of them, and actually, it's kind of funny. I was listening to somebody else today saying that he actually offered Google money when they were a startup to buy them out and merge them with Excite. If we all know, remember Excite? They did have a Super Bowl commercial. I don't know if that means anything. And there's seven takeaways, and this is from VentureBeat, and it'll be linked in the show notes, which you could take whatever you want, but these are the 7 sound bites, and I just want to talk about what they mean by it, because they got a lot of negative press. So the first one is, there's too much tax waste. Improve efficiency. Sergey Brin says it's kosher for the government to eliminate waste and bad behavior through taxes. And the quote was, I think ideally one would try to tax more of the things that we don't want and either subsidize and encourage the things that we do want. The kinds of things people spend money on that are wasteful, you can imagine having higher taxes on. Or some things that are harmful, like carbon, could be taxed at a higher rate. On one hand, presumably, it will slow wasteful spending.
Okay,
So any thoughts?
This is a Mayor Bloomberg type thing. This is a Sergey Brin wants to take away your big gulps, but it's a dangerous road for him to go down, talking philosophically about government and about society. Frankly, when Google is it is kind of a government unto itself, a government without borders, and it almost seems like the next step is for him to say, when you search for porn on Google, it's going to go a lot slower, or something like that. I don't know. He's allowed to have his own personal beliefs, but he's also got a huge team of lobbyists that make a lot of money, and it's just Look, I trust him more than I trust the Koch brothers, but it's a dangerous road for him to go down on a PR level, I guess.
Well, here's the thing. Google is not a country. They don't have foreign policy. And people have, look to Google. Now they're being told to this right to be forgotten in Europe. If it's a bad press, that people can just take it down. And they're going, Google, you have to do it. And Google's turning around and saying, we're just aggregating knowledge. We don't have foreign policy. So I guess it's one of those where I'm getting at is he's saying, in my mind, being the Google fanboy that I am, is like, look, we're wasting too much taxes. Let's find a way to improve it so we don't have to raise taxes, or we can find a better way to assess taxes that helps everyone out.
Okay, so Paul, you want to get in on this soundbite here? You want to call him a communist or something?
I don't want to call him a communist. I just don't care what he has to say. It's just like anyone saying anything. This is his opinion. He's the CEO of Google, and good for him.
What about when he starts demanding tax credit? And I mean, I will keep my opinion. I don't know if I have fully formed opinions on this, but the next step is for him to demand tax credits for all of his data centers that don't use grid power or something, and and limiting the tax burden of Google in the United States by doing so. Something like that. I mean, this has real implications. His philosophy has real implications for how the company conducts business.
Do you think that he goes to the accountants and says, avoid all the taxes, or does he do that as a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders?
I think that there is an industry unto itself that is maybe even more esoteric and far removed from the lay person than being like a research engineer at Google to keep these companies from paying taxes and to follow the millions of laws that have been created to tax corporations, which I guess is a good way to springboard into another one of his sound bites, right?
Sure. So the next thing is unnecessary work for everyone, part-time. Larry Page says he's optimistic that robots will usher in a world of abundance and eliminate much of the work we do today. Okay? Basically, so here's the soundbite. Most people like working, but they also like to have more time with their family or to pursue their own interests. So that would be one way to deal with the problems is if you had a coordinated way to reduce the work week. And I'm like, can't read today. And then if you had slightly less employment, you can adjust and people will still have jobs. I have a feel, and he talks about robots and stuff like that. Basically, what I'm getting at is that he wants robots to do the menial work, so it allows people to do the things that they were really hired for or what they're good at.
And for the people that
do menial work,
right? That can't do anything but menial work. I mean, this is a huge question for humanity, and again, his insight here. Look, he's not Elon Musk. When Elon Musk talks crazy, there's like a little glimmer in his eye that you think he's gonna like pull a hyperloop right out of his ass or something. Sergey probably has his research X people building cyborgs for him in somewhere in Chelsea, New York. But it's more of a philosophy now. I don't even know how it manifests itself, but you couple this with the tax thing, and at least you see where his mind is at. I mean, he's thinking about the future of humanity. These are big issues and what the future of tech is.
I mean, look, if I didn't have to grade papers, I could spend more time writing, doing a much better curriculum. But everything
why should you have to grade papers if it could be done for you?
Well, that's I guess what he's trying to say. This is a menial task of grading papers. I wish that I could not have to grade papers. Let someone else grade it. I mean, grades. I'd rather not even give the test, but I have to, and let somebody else grade it, and I can work on other things.
I think that this is one of the deepest issues we have as human beings. It's when you push this, philosophically to its extremes. You have the Matrix scenario, where we're all fat, like energy-producing lards that are connected to like a hive mind supercomputer or whatever. However, I don't know what the two-sentence description of the Matrix is. And there's a huge, long way to get there, but it misses the essence of humanity. The mentality that he's expressing. It almost denigrates the everyday kind of tasks that formulate a life. Sweeping up, doing the dishes. I mean, it's not like there are diminishing returns on leisure, certainly, and I don't know, maybe I'm making it too philosophical, but it sounds like this interviewer wanted to talk Nietzsche and Kant with him next. So I don't know.
Look, I would love to outsource the menial tasks, and so would you, and Paul absolutely would. But it goes back to, what about the people doing these menial tasks? It's some like recursive problem that at some point somebody has to do it. And if you don't do it, they're going to be out of a job and unemployed.
That no human being picks up dog shit? Excuse me.
I mean, you have stuff like this going on where we can have robots, sewing clothing and creating clothing, but it's actually cheaper to, bring it to a third world country and have humans do it for like no wages.
That's true.
So that's what happens, but at what point do the machines become inexpensive enough that we can use them to produce clothes?
This is a huge... That little soundbite, I don't know. This is the type of thing that when we're looking back in maybe 100, 200, 300 years, it'll not something. All right, let's move on to the next one, Heim Thomas.
Okay, a limit on the number of laws, and I'm going to skip the venture beat.
That was the limit on the number of laws one was the one that was supposed to be the springboard. I wanted you to do them out of order, but anyway, because it makes sense in the context of the taxation stuff. But anyway, go for it. Do the
okay. A limit on the number of laws, and this is probably the most controversial. This is again from Larry Page. One thing I propose is that I was talking to some government leaders. I said actually to the president of South Korea, it was great. I said, hey, why don't you just limit your laws and regulations to some set of pages? And when you add a page, you have to take one away. She actually wrote this down. She's great. and people are taking this out. Oh, it's they're going to make they want to take out the tax laws that are going to help them and all this other stuff and the labor laws and these laws that will only benefit companies. And I think what he's trying to get at is, in my mind, is that there's a whole bunch of laws in the books. We need to simplify it to something that most people can understand and most people can follow, instead of having laws upon laws upon laws.
All right. I mean, this is getting into a philosophy of law issue and whether or not overarching simple principles can actually make effective laws. And the answer is probably not, because there are so many eventualities, and we need a lot of codification. Is there too much? Is there a lot of bureaucracy on top of that codification? And to implement that codification, yes. But
we just need the too long didn't read version for every law.
Okay, so making laws accessible to the average citizen, I think, is actually a great concept, and separate from just like limiting the number of laws, which is, you know, maybe it would actually work better. But he just doesn't. He sees that the amount of time and money that the legal department consumes at Google as waste. He'd rather hire more engineers, and so it's. I think it's coming from that perspective. I'm not saying he's wrong. But isn't that what he's talking about here? He's saying, we'll ditch the lawyers, give us some simple laws to follow, so that we don't have to spend 50% of our time implementing the Romania's law versus the Czech Republic's law, et cetera, et cetera.
They can't get robots to understand the law and argue for them yet. Look, I don't know why that was like brought up. I don't know who decides that Larry Page and Sergey are the people who need to philosophically disagree or agree on stuff. But this is the one that I think is the most important one to talk about, is get rid of HIPAA. Imagine, and HIPAA, if you don't know, is the the Healthcare Initiative.
The Health Information Privacy and Portability Act. Time. See, I did it without Google Glass, but okay.
You have to disclose that you work in a medical office, but that's okay.
I do not work in a medical office, nor have I ever, but go on, okay.
Okay. Look, okay, this is long, but to sum it up, basically, Google wants to be able to search health records to better find a diagnosis, rather than everything be private and basically go at it alone. So if you have a disease, you have to be the one that wants to share it with others to see if anybody else had it, but instead they want to release it and let the data do its magic.
This is the Google bot reading your email to give you ads in your Gmail applied to healthcare. Maybe it'll work. Maybe HIPAA can be opened up. HIPAA can still be the basis of how that information is shared, so I still think there's a place for it. But he just pulls, where is he coming up with this 10,000 people could be saved number, right? Doesn't he say that, give me your health records, I saved 10,000 lives? I mean, I guess it's certainly possible to diagnose things quicker and better, but that was his claim, right?
Basically, he's saying, look, I bet you we have the knowledge to cure cancer. I mean, not as extreme, but we have the knowledge to cure these diseases that need help, and we just need to know more. We have the information on the people. Just let us know and let us help.
Paul, do you want an Apple or Google or even Microsoft proctological exam and resulting chemotherapy? What do you want, the Google syringe or the Apple syringe? I mean, is time on the right track?
The Apple syringe will be made out of aluminium,
of
and
course.
the Google syringe will be made by an engineer.
Of course, thank you. Paul, you with us?
I am with you. I think I missed the giant conversation, but
well,
I do not want Apple or Google making my syringes.
Fair enough. We will steer clear of medical devices manufactured by either company, except if it's an iWatch that monitors your pulse and your sweat level and all this other stuff. All right, time. Let's get through the Google guys, because where are we on time?
I don't know. We're at 20 minutes. Two more, and we'll move on. Rent control. They have a problem with rent control. I read the argument. I don't think they should. They're basically saying it's rent control. People, there's no capitalism. There's no drive to do more. I don't necessarily agree or disagree with that. I see it from both sides, but I don't know why they're commenting on it, other than the fact that they're getting protested.
Well, and they really like San Francisco, and I think I think he's become an elitist over time, and,
Okay.
or maybe he always was, but at least he spoke to it.
Okay, and then the last thing is robots are better than humans. Sergey says that robots can build better products than humans.
I think okay. Well, that means that the Moto X that he has on his wrist is built by a robot.
Who knows? I mean, the Moto X was famously built in America.
Then it was not built by a robot. Okay, so let's.
Is he saying that, not like design, but the actual production?
Basically, robots don't make mistakes, or if they make mistakes, they're making way fewer mistakes, and they're systematic.
Well, that's true then.
I mean, that's what he's saying. And here, the hubbub is everyone's saying, "Oh, we're Google's turning into Skynet. They want robots. They hate society. They hate the poor. They hate this." And they're taking all of this possibly out of context. And I suggest that everyone watches the video and not just listen to our commentary, because none of us are qualified to really actually talk about it.
It goes back to Paul's point about labor overseas being, and the people probably being abused ultimately, but being cheaper than robots, and that is how Foxconn gets our iPhones built for cheap, and that's what he's saying. That in those instances, robots actually build the devices better, and he's maybe advocating subtly for those people to be put out for. All right, let's go north from Mountain View all the way up to Redmond, excuse me, not Richmond, Virginia. We're not going to go east. We'll go north to Redmond. Paul, you just came back. Take us through what Mr. Nadella has in store for the Microsofties in Washington State.
It's very simple. Paul?
Yep.
So
Paul, take us through
what... Did you read the email? Did you read the Nadella email?
Yeah, I mean, he was... I was not impressed with anything. They're saying they're not out of the race because they have... and even since Steve Ballmer left, that they have a new philosophy where they're seeing everyone as people, and that people all have these basic needs, and it's not just this person is business focused and they require enterprise-based software, or that this person is like the ordinary consumer and they need consumer-facing software. It's just all people have basic needs and they're trying to cater to that. Cortana does CRM functionality. That's something that Siri and Google now doesn't have because it's a business need. So
does this sound eerily similar to the idea of taking a tablet and a laptop and mashing them together into something that's not as good as either? Because what they're saying now is there's no consumer, there's no enterprise, there are people. Which almost sounds like a government program too, like Guns and Butter. I don't know. Anyway, but that's again, they are taking the middle ground, right?
Look, I'm impressed that Paul got through this email. I mean, I'm scrolling through it, and I'm just thinking, how many people how many of the secretaries had to print this for their mid-level manager over there? It must have been like 10 pages, and I couldn't find anything. I mean, Paul summed it up in like a sentence or two.
So this guy's now calling the shots at the top of Microsoft. There are elements from the enterprise that, when migrated into consumer software, will be better, and vice versa too. So if the conclusion that they're coming to, I don't know how that necessarily affects the products that they build. So iOS evolved from being consumer grade to having great enterprise features. Android is I mean, it gets the job done. What is the implication of this? It seems like the other stuff that the other changes that Microsoft have made by opening up their APIs, by courting developers more effectively, are more important than this philosophy difference.
Oh no, I think that the philosophy difference is that they're trying to be more both consumer and they're trying to focus on the enterprise, but they're trying to work with the consumer to better their lives. And I mean, that's what they're trying on their end to better their life, but I don't know what's going to happen.
Oh, okay, so do you think the secretaries were the ones that were the ones printing this thing out and no one was reading. I think that everyone at Microsoft was going over it line by line to figure out what the boss of bosses at the helm of this huge company wants from them. And maybe what this does is it makes it so that the enterprise people can't get away with saying it works good enough. Their software now has to be beautiful. It has to be pleasurable to. It has to be pleasant to use. And before, it didn't seem like that was the case. They could kind of ship it if it worked, and maybe he's upping the standards some. I
Well,
don't
it
know
says, look, the Verge headline says Microsoft CEO readies big shakeup, drops devices and services focus. So maybe again, reading this novella, I guess, of an email, it's saying, look, they're going in all these different directions. They want to focus on their core, and Microsoft's core was always the services. I mean, Windows OS, they said, look, we don't want to build the product. You can license it, but here are the rules. And people took off. People took it off. It looks like they were in this device market, and they don't necessarily want to be. They want to make the software and make sure it works and make sure that it's solid, and Google's eating their lunch and Apple's eating their lunch on the hardware. It sounds like they just want to focus on what's important and make whatever's working work really well.
So does that mean Office for iOS, Office for Android, Office for Windows, Office for Chrome OS? I mean, is that what you think he's alluding to here?
I really do. I think it's, instead of siloing it on a specific Windows machine, I think they're taking the Google approach and saying, you know what, we're going to make it work on everything, and we're going to make sure it works. Like, we're not going to make we're not going to ship a product that's not going to work.
Paul, do you think that the consumer is going to kind of take it on the chin if there are no more Nokia Windows phones? I mean, are they? Is the operating system that Microsoft uses on its mobiles, is it important? Or, I mean,
I don't know, but people who use the Windows phones really like them. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
I've noticed that people who choose Windows Phone tend to be very aware, more aware than the average iOS user, the average Android user, that they are on a platform that is non-standard. It's like the hipster mobile operating system, kind of.
Our podcaster Emeritus may be on a Windows phone. I have not checked.
Oh, he claimed. Currently, when the iPhone 6 comes out, Harry will, believe me, he will want an iPhone 6, and it's going to be some BS about how he has a new baby and how the camera is really the best in the world, and he needs it. He's not going to Windows Phone.
No, I agree with that. But Paul, again, you're right. I think they're taking the services that they know are good, and they're going to make it, and they want to focus on it. So the reason none of us are buying Windows phones is because we're afraid that the developers are not going to go there. But if Microsoft, I hate to use the phrase.
It's all about the developers, at least for me.
Well, I don't want to use the phrase double down, but if they really sunk some money into the three things that they said they're keeping on the device market, the Xbox, the Surface, and the Windows Phone, if they really sunk money into it and said this is what we're focusing on, I have a feeling that you're going to see a lot more Windows Phones and Surface tablets running around.
You know, it's one thing that Microsoft is getting a little bit better at is dealing with their licensing nightmare that they've created. It's especially in the business level, it can really be. I can spend as much time selling the product and integrating it as dealing with the license. It's like a third kind of like thing that has to be dealt with. But for like $70 a year or $100 a year, you get the Microsoft Office suite, and it is a good service, and it works on iOS. It of course works on Windows Phone, and for the first time, I'm seeing the light at the end of the Microsoft tunnel. That if client wants to stay Microsoft, that's not happened to me yet. No one has love lost for Microsoft. But if they wanted to, I would feel comfortable saying, you know what, we can do this, and we can match the quality of Gmail. We can match the quality of a Chromebook experience with the automatic saving and also having Google Drive and Dropbox. Microsoft can do it. So how can they convince me? I guess they've got to win on cost too. We got
to wrap up.
Okay. All
30
right, so
seconds.
I don't know what episode number this is, and typically I say thank you for listening to episode number X. So I'll say thank you for listening to episode N. Satya, Larry.
Thank you for listening to inThirty. Let's just call it that.
Thank you. If you're listening, CEOs out there, you're welcome to come and join us, but please, please leave your cyborg selves at home. We don't cater to the robot type here. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, bye everybody.
Signing off.
Night.
Bye.
Good morning, whatever time it is.